Thank you all for joining me this morning. My name is Dr. Ken Schuster, and I'm a clinical neuropsychologist at the Child Mind Institute. To meet the unprecedented mental health and parenting needs of this coronavirus crisis, Child Mind Institute has gone borderless. We are here with gold standard clinical care, advice, and resources for children and families wherever you are, all online and accessible to everyone. Here's what we can do to support you during this crisis. We are providing gold standard mental health care remotely for new and existing patients with telehealth while maintaining the same high quality care. We have free comprehensive resources for families at childmind.org/coronavirus. You can sign up for daily parenting tips at childmind.org. And on Facebook, my colleagues and I are answering your questions just like this at 10 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And our Facebook group for parenting during the time of coronavirus is up and running. We are here for you wherever you are. Please contact us with further questions about how we can help, and I hope you'll take advantage of our resources and share them with your networks. Today, we will be discussing school, tips for remote learning for kids of all ages. I'm going to do my best to answer all of your questions on this topic and others, but if I run out of time, there are two ways that you can get what you need. We'll be right back here at 4:30 p.m. this afternoon and again tomorrow at 10 a.m. to answer more questions. We have a team looking through your questions daily. They will incorporate answers into our resources on childmind.org. Now, if you're struggling with teaching your kids at home, you're certainly not alone. Remember that. You're not alone. If you're very lucky, your child's school has been able to set up a version of teleteaching with live classes for at least a portion of the day. Many schools do not have these resources, or they're only just starting to get them mobilized. So a much larger chunk of your child's education has now fallen onto your shoulders, and you're probably trying to juggle your full-time job at the same time. Most parents may have spent an hour or so a night doing homework with their kids. By the time more time is needed, the kids are often doing a lot of their homework on their own. But now you're taking part in a lot more of their education. Remember that teachers have at least 4 years of specialized training in how to teach lessons and keep kids engaged and make sure that they remember the information. You may not have that, so if your teaching experience consists of only a week now, you're probably doing a really great job. I was a public school teacher for about 7 years before I started practicing psychology, and I'm having a rough adjustment for teaching both preschool and third grade and being a psychologist. Give it time, be patient, and remind yourself that you're new. You will get better, things will get better, and we will all get through all of this. I'm sure that everyone has been scouring the internet looking for educational resources, and thankfully, this seems to be a crowdsourced effort. It truly is an amazing time. In my own searches, I've come across numerous articles with appropriate educational activities for kids. One of them that caught my eye recently was in Washington Family by author P.J. Feinstein, called 25 Plus Online Resources for Parents Homeschooling Their Kids. The organization We Are Teachers compiled a list of 60 or more mathematics websites. Countless museums like the Guggenheim in New York and the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. and the Pergamon in Berlin, Germany are offering free virtual tours. The Paris Opera is screening performances for free. Google is giving virtual tours of U.S. national parks. Children's book author Mo Williams is doing lunch doodles on YouTube. The YMCA is offering free fitness classes, and that's in addition to all the free fitness classes and yoga classes that are already available on YouTube. And more importantly, many paid subscription children's educational services are now giving away free subscriptions to schools and to individuals. Many have free codes that you can only get through your child's school, so you should be sure to ask. We recently started using ABC Mouse because we got the subscription through the school. There are also a number of Facebook groups that have popped up that are just overflowing with countless resources for parents. And never forget, some of the best things that you can do for your children at all ages is just talk to them. So I have a few questions here that were asked since the last time we went live, and I'm going to start with those. This question says, the school sent home work for my 5th grader, but only a few worksheets for my kindergartner. What should I be doing with her? To start, you may want to check with your child's teacher again. They may have some additional materials. They may not have any additional materials, but you want to make sure that that you want to ask for guidance as far as what they've covered. You can try using available online resources that are appropriate for her level. And if you have the means to do so, there are many websites that have coloring sheets, tracing, number and letter sheets, cutting sheets that you can just print out. You can use the coloring books that you have at home and work on activities that involve strengthening a pencil grasp. You can draw dotted lines and have her cut on the dotted lines. Go outside and take a walk and use sidewalk chalk to draw letters and numbers on the driveway. You can take a number letter walk around the neighborhood. Let's everybody find the letter A. All right, now it's your turn. Find the letter B. You can pick flowers, not anybody's expensive flowers, maybe dandelions, and count them or make shapes on the ground or letters or numbers out of them. You can play I Spy. You can play dice games. You can use Play-Doh, or you can make your own homemade dough. You can make numbers and letters and do counting activities with all of those things as well. You can read stories, you can sing songs, and you can just talk. You can also use real-world activities such as cooking or baking to learn about numbers and measurements, and just make sure that you're giving breaks and that you're having snacks. The key is that despite any of the online resources that are available and work that might be coming through your school, kids, particularly kids at this age, they don't necessarily need to be sitting in front of a computer or tablet screen all day, right? There are plenty of things that you can be doing out and around your house, working with your hands, working with materials that you have in order to keep them engaged. Okay? Let me see. We have another question. Okay. This one says, my teen son has ADHD and he's not able to focus at home. He's frustrated. We're frustrated. Can the schools help? Can you help? Well, learning from home, it's a big adjustment. It's an adjustment between school and home that really blurs the lines. Most kids and adults are struggling with it. Kids with ADHD may be having a little bit of a rougher time with the adjustment, particularly if they thrived within their previous school routine. If you can, put him back on his schedule. Everything from waking up to eating breakfast to getting to school. Having classes in a specific order during the day. Now, he didn't have his phone out during class, and he shouldn't have the phone out now, but he did have the opportunity to chat with his friends during lunchtime, so that might be a good time for an online chat. You may also coordinate with other parents to recreate study halls in order to have a group chat. A lot of teenagers are feeling just very socially disconnected, and a lot of frustration can come from the fact that they're not on the routine and they're not seeing the people that they're used to seeing. Let me see. Can the schools help? Well, yeah, schools can help. You want to contact your son's teachers and discuss any instructional strategies that they may have been using in the classroom. And you may also want to speak with your child's doctor or doctors for additional support. If your child has ADHD and was receiving treatment previously, you want to make sure that you want to maintain the treatment that was being put in place. And yes, we can also help. There are numerous online resources in the Child Mind Facebook parenting group, as well as on childmind.org, that can provide very, very useful and effective strategies for parents in these situations. And if you find that the difficulties go a little bit further from what you're seeing in our online resources, we can always be called or contacted for consultation. Okay, let me see if we have another question here. Okay. All right. What is the best way to schedule my child's day for remote learning? Um, well, if your child's school hasn't set up a schedule for you, like I said earlier, many schools have been using virtual classrooms, and in families that I've spoken to, I've heard of kids that were participating in virtual classrooms from 8 to 2 p.m., which is great. But some of us or those resources before us. So it's best to look through your child's daily activities and create a schedule with them. No matter your child's age, you can start with a morning meeting each day to talk through what needs to be done. You can describe each activity as a center, and each center is given a specific amount of time. You can post your child's schedule on a chalkboard, a dry erase board, or even on a sheet of paper that's hanging on the refrigerator. And you can give your child the power to check things off of that task list or off of that schedule when they've accomplished something. It can be really gratifying even just to check something off. And you want to make sure that you build in movement and play breaks. And remember that these things existed during your child's school day already. Teachers are very savvy about making sure that kids have opportunity, particularly younger kids, have opportunities to move around, to get up, to do some physical activity. And that they also have an opportunity to play. So these things are just as important as the learning activities that your teachers may be providing. But remember that movement breaks have a time limit too. Okay, in my house, we've started doing a gym class kind of periodically during the day. So at one point we might do 30 jumping jacks. At another point we might do a few crunches. Another point we might toss a ball back and forth. But we're building these things in to break up the other academic activities. And then play. Kids learn so much about their world and about their environment through play, and that doesn't stop just because kids are having school at home. If they were in the classroom, they would be sitting on the carpet, playing with blocks, playing with other toys, and this should continue. And remember that, even when they were playing with those toys in school, there was a cleanup time as well. They got their warning, they knew where everything had to go, they put it away, and then they moved into their next activity. So you want to make sure that you're building in plenty of opportunities for play and movement while you're also doing those reading worksheets, those mathematics online activities, and those journal entries or any other things that your child may be required to do as part of their homeschooling. So be creative, be flexible with the types of activities, but also, if you need to, create a schedule and try and vary the activities on the schedule as much as you can. Let me see. Okay. Now, I'm worried about my middle school daughter falling behind. Should I give her extra support? I feel like I'm going to say a few times that the first step of anything is going to be some contact with your child's teacher, and this is no different. I would contact her teacher before adding anything in. I know it may feel like it has been an eternity, but we've only been at this for 1 week. And many schools are just starting to catch up. Many schools are just starting to generate their activities and get those things out. So there may be some additional work and additional reinforcement that's already on the horizon for this week. Now, if you've had these concerns before this coronavirus crisis, that's a different story. You certainly want to talk to the teacher about any difficulties that you may be seeing to see if those difficulties were also present in the classroom previously. And if they were present, what the teacher was doing about these things. And if they weren't present, finding out what your teacher has been trained to do if if those things become apparent during the day. In more extreme cases, your child may need a little bit more of additional support, and maybe an underlying learning challenge may be just starting to show itself. In which case, you do not want to take the next couple of steps alone. You certainly want to reach out to the school for support to find the right things that you can be doing in order to support her. Okay, here's another question. Do you recommend any sort of boosting or extracurricular programming to keep kids on track? I'm worried they'll be months behind and school will never be the same. This is a very common worry. As schools and parents are just starting to figure out what all of this means for education. And like I said, we've only been at this for a week. Many parents are concerned that the remainder of the school year is not going to be as valuable for their child as it would have been if the instruction had not been derailed by this crisis. But there are countless activities that are available in the wake of this crisis that you can, with the advisement of your child's teacher, that you can implement. So school lessons are typically taught in a sequence, and you don't want to derail any part of the educational progression. So if you want to do anything, booster or a little bit of extracurricular work, you want to make sure that you check with the teacher to make sure that it aligns with the work that they're doing. Aside from that, the sky's the limit, really. When I first began speaking, and we can post links to a lot of these things when we're finished, there are many enrichment activities that you can have your child engaged in that are available online. You can go on virtual museum tours. You can participate in an online chess club. If you want to stay away from the computer, you can read an extra book together as a family and discuss it. Many families are taking a plunge into their bookshelves and into their basement stocks of books that they might have to blow a bit of dust off of. But there are likely some resources that you have at hand that may be good for a little bit of extracurricular enrichment. Just make sure that you check with the teacher first. Okay. How much should we share about the possibility of not going back to school this year? My anxious third grader is constantly asking. I think that it's very important to talk to our kids about what is happening. We want to make sure that we frame this in an age-appropriate way, and a child in the third grade doesn't necessarily need all of the details of everything that is going on in the world. But your anxious third grader, as you say, his or her world has been turned upside down for this. I'm sure that you have questions that are not being answered as of yet, and I'm sure that he or she also has a lot of questions that are not being answered yet. So you want to try and make as much of the available information available to your third grader in an age-appropriate way. And sometimes it's just okay to say, I don't know. We're going to do this week, and we'll see what next week brings. And making sure that we normalize their thoughts on these things and normalize their feelings about not knowing exactly what's coming next. I think that having with a third grader about what school is right now and what school might be next week is very appropriate. There is a possibility that schools may not open for the rest of the school year, but really at this point we don't even know what that looks like. So we don't want to reach too far into the future with this, because there are just too many unknowns. Okay. Now, let me see. I think we have time for one more question. Okay. And let me see. This one says, wait, no, I think I answered that one already. Okay. Okay. How can I approach teachers and administration with my concerns? Now, this is very important because we want to make sure that we are in very close contact with our teachers and school administration during this crisis. But this is going to vary from school system to school system. I think that the best and most successful place to start is an email to the teachers. I don't think that many of the school systems have set up call forwarding, but if they have set up call forwarding, there might be a certain number of hours where you are allowed to or permitted to call teachers. They're probably not during the school day, simply because the teachers are engaged in their own lessons, their own lesson planning, if they are doing live lessons, and possibly even teaching their own children while they're teaching your children. So I think that the best thing to do is to email them and ask whatever questions you might have, and express any. Want to make sure that you're very direct in what you're seeing at home, and the more description that you can provide, the better. Because if you do have a concern, and if there is something that they can do, you want to make sure that you're giving them as much detail as they possibly can get in order to help you. Okay. Let me see if there is another question here. Okay. All right. Here's one last one. My child says he's not good at online learning. What can I do? Well, I think that your child is not alone in this. Online learning is a very, very new thing, and sometimes new things can be scary. Sometimes new things can be anxiety provoking, and sometimes new things can be just plain difficult until we've adjusted. One thing I hope that we can all remember is that online learning is just a new challenge. It's a new and different way of doing things when we've been very used to doing things in other ways. Remember that no one is used to this, and some kids are going to have a little bit rougher of a time adjusting. I think that really step one is to talk with him about what is making online learning not good. Is it the formatting of the work? Is it sitting in front of a computer all day? Is it the way that the lesson is being taught via online format? There can be many different things, and they're all very distinct and can be very unique to your child about why online learning is making them feel not good at learning. So you certainly want to root around a little bit and get to the bottom of where, if are sitting in front of a computer for an extended period of time. It's going to be very important once again to build in some break times, and make sure that your kids are still getting around to move and getting some energy out in other ways other than sitting. And once again, I can only I can say that it remains very, very important to contact your child's teacher and to find out if there are any specific learning strategies that they were using in the classroom so that you can try and employ them at home. Those sorts of things may not have been built into the online lessons that you're receiving or any of the online learning tasks, but they may be tremendously useful, particularly at this time. Okay. And I think that is all the time that we have for questions today. And I want to thank you all again for joining me this morning. I hope that it was helpful. And remember, we'll be right back here at 4:30 p.m. this afternoon, and again at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning to answer more questions. The Child Mind Institute is here to help with mental health and parenting needs of this coronavirus, no matter where you are. We have the resources to help, from daily tips to consultations to gold standard telehealth treatments. Go to childmind.org/coronavirus for more information.